Hi everyone, this is Sven. Welcome back to our CIS 101 talks with tech experts. Today I'm speaking to Dr. Vishal Lala, who is a marketing professor at Pace, but he has a keen interest in analytics, has a lot of experience with computer science, so he'll talk to you a bit about the relationship between tech and marketing. So Dr. Lala, please take it away.
I am glad you could join us here. I'm a professor of marketing in the Lubin School of Business. While my domain of expertise is marketing, a lot of marketing finds application or leverages the power of technology, both for doing statistical analysis and for gathering large amounts of data that marketers need to do their job.
How did you get started with Pace? And how you if you started using technology to your advantage into your field.
Sure. I've always been excited about consumer behavior, which is sort of like the psychology of marketing, figuring out how people make decisions when they are in the marketplace shopping for things. Learning much about an individual is going to be limited to just that individual. So you think about a sample size of just one or two people is not very scalable. And so the larger amount of data we have access to, the more generalizable our research and findings are going to be, which warrants gathering vast amounts of data so that we have more generalizable findings. Computers aid in collecting this vast amount of data. With the advent of, we don't even feel like it started recently, but the internet has changed a lot of things because a lot of our activities and actions and behaviors are now all happening in the digital world, which in a sense makes it even easier to gather such large amounts of data automatically. Rather than using paper questionnaires to gather data from consumers, now we can learn a lot about their activities online. For example, tracking what people are doing on a website, tracking their clicks, and tracking even times when they're not clicking. For example, how long somebody spends on a web page may be reflective of their interest in the product. Their mouse overs on the product might show an interest in the product that their mouse pointer is hovering over. So we can gather a lot of information about their shopping behaviors by leveraging the power of programming in particular. Furthermore, once this data is all collected or gathered, somebody's got to make sense of this. Here again, effective use of software makes it possible to analyze vast amounts of data. Traditional package software, when you think about traditional software that you use to analyze data, one will often think about Microsoft Excel or some other spreadsheet software like that. The good thing about these software is that they are widely accessible, which means the learning curve is very short. In fact, Excel is probably the most widely used software due to analytics. However, it lacks the flexibility required to handle data in today's world. So here you want us to move from thinking about using a packaged software where one could click through menus and navigate through them to analyze data, to start thinking about more code-based methods of not just gathering, but also analyzing data. So here's where computer science plays a very, very profound role. It enables us to use flexible tools or flexible methods to analyze our data. For instance, the menu options don't always work effectively for various kinds of data, maybe because of the quality of the data or the limitations of the analysis, or maybe it lacks certain special analytical capabilities required for the data at hand. Here's where code-based solutions come in handy. Being able to write specific code in a language like, let's say, R or Python enables the analyst to get exactly what they're seeking from the data, and thereby for marketers learn about, generate some valuable insights about consumers, which are not only generalizable, but also can work at scale.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And to kind of go off of that, is there any piece of advice then that students could use to apply what you just said into their CIS 101 class where they are learning the basics of Excel and some coding? Um, what would be kind of the most important thing for them to take away, regardless of their field of work?
Great, great. In the world we live in today, I think there are a few things that you can identify as being cutting across domains, cutting across disciplines. While science, humanities, arts, and so on have gotten very fragmented in the world of marketing. For instance, people are talking about fashion marketing and so on. So we're getting very fragmented, very specific in terms of our disciplines. Despite that, there are some things that are common across all disciplines. And if I were to identify two of them, those would be math, and I see statistics as part of that as well, and computer science. These are the two domains that you'll find having some role to play no matter what area you're in. One would probably, the artistic kinds would probably say that, well, math and statistics have almost no bearing, nor does computer science have when it comes to, let's say, art. Believe it or not, it does. We've gotten so far that we've figured out ways to actually generate art using computer code and statistics, and do this again at scale. So my key advice would be, no matter what direction you plan to go in, whether you want to be a psychologist turned marketer turned statistician, whether you want to pursue architecture, no matter what your end goal is, math and statistics and computer science, which, if you think about it, computer science came from math. So these are sort of like fields that will only help you no matter where you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's wonderful advice. And we actually had an artist, Professor Will Pappenheimer. He's an artist who uses AR and VR to create his work. So I'm glad you got into a bit more detail on that. But yeah, thank you for your time. This was great. Students, have a great week. We'll be back with some more talks with tech experts.
Great. Thanks so much.